Stupid Garbage Podcast.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. It's recording.
Oh, okay. Give me the... Pass me the rock, thank you.
What?
So, yeah, today we are reviewing the 1986 movie Manhunter. The TV movie that was the sequel to... Excuse me, Jessica.
Sorry.
The first movie in the Hannibal franchise, the prequel to Silence of the Lambs, and then eventually, is it Silence of the Lambs or The Silence of the Lambs? I think it's The Silence of the Lambs, right?
I don't know. It sounds better to me.
And then Red Dragon, and then Hannibal, I think. I didn't know. Blah. I didn't know Anthony Hopkins was in so many of those movies, although he wasn't actually in the first one. He wasn't in Manhunter. It was, I think, Tom Noonan played Hannibal Lecter. Lecter in that movie, for some reason, spelled Lecktor. But same character, obviously, from the same books. And
why would they spell his name differently? It's literally in writing.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it was spelled differently in the books, or in the first book, at least.
Weird.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
So, Jessica, what did you think of Manhunter?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
You must have watched it alone today while I was gone.
No, I watched it, 2011.
Okay.
Maybe? 13? Sometime in the early 2010s.
Even weirder, but...
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
What'd you think?
I don't remember liking it much. I thought it was... I'm gonna say I thought it was okay. You know what? I'm gonna review it as though I do remember it. So to set the table, obviously, this is... I don't know why that's funny, but...
He's a cannibal. It's all
No, he's not a cannibal in this movie. He doesn't do anything like that in this movie.
his character is still a cannibal.
Well,
later,
no, this is Lecter, LeckT. It's a common mix-up. It's a different guy, actually.
No,
You're looking for Lecter, Leckter. This is Lecktor. Hannibal, uncommon name. Lecter, obviously, same name phonetically. So it's a common misunderstanding. This is not the first time that this has happened, but no. He is not a cannibal in this. He doesn't eat anyone. He's not alluded to being a cannibal. He's just... he's just a murderer, psychiatrist. Right. And I think he runs some sort of something weird in the criminal element of it. He has a dog fighting ring, or...
No.
Maybe that's not it. I think he smuggles art or something. Some weird 1800s crime. Like he had some... smuggling opium into China or something very peculiar. It wasn't that, obviously, but it was something
a real
weird.
Problem in the United States these days.
Yeah, probably for a number of reasons related to the shifting of the war on drugs, but it's neither here nor there. We don't have to talk about how it's possible that the industrial prison complex is pushing opiates into the hospitals and streets in order to keep their own business running. So Manhunter, I want to say 86, 85, 86, at least that's when I saw it.
What?
Was a long movie. Silence of the Lambs was pretty long, but this one was almost 3 hours, and it felt every bit as... I mean, I just finished it today, having started it back in, I want to say 2011, so it's a bit of a slog, but yeah, they're looking for... I think basically Manhunter and Red Dragon were very, very similar. Very similar. Oh, God, Jess, you got to stop yawning in the middle of my words. Similar plots.
I have not yawned once.
Similar plots, They might be the same story, but I don't think so. I think Red Dragon and Manhunter are two different books in this series.
Did you see Red Dragon?
I've seen parts of Red Dragon, I think.
I didn't like it.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman. Edward Norton plays... So it's the same thing. Yeah.
I don't remember it very well. But...
Yeah, no, I can tell.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, and I seem to be remembering it better than you. So Edward Norton plays a retired FBI agent who retired early because Hannibal Lecter the search for Hannibal Lecter nearly killed him, something like that. And he's searching for the Tooth Fairy, a new killer. And I don't remember if he enlists the help of Hannibal in trying to find him. I think he does. I feel like Hannibal is in prison in this one because I think it happens before. Anyway, and has to find the Tooth Fairy, and that's exactly the same plot. It's to say the killer's called the Tooth Fairy, and he gets Hannibal's help, and he retired early trying to catch Hannibal Lecter. It's the FBI agent. It's the same exact plot. It might be the same movie. I don't know if it's a remake or not, but regardless, yeah, Manhunter had a lot more. You watch movies from the 80s, you realize they didn't. Two things really stick out about movies from the 80s. They didn't fucking give a shit about racism. And I don't even. They were unapologetically, enthusiastically racist. They were aggressively racist. You watch movies from the 40s or 50s, and occasionally something will come up and you go, oh, wow, that's kind of outdated, or I guess they. But generally, the gist, the message of most movies from that time period, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but the message is either entirely irrelevant to race, it never comes up, which you could say, this movie has 30 characters and they're all played by white men in their 40s. That's a problem. Yeah. But the movie itself does not portray an active message of racism. Yeah. Or it comes across as, these are all the good people and, you got to treat each other right because all movies have been made by liberals in Hollywood who have always been, very, at least outwardly, very sensitive about race relations and issues of social blah, 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 blah. Want people to think that maybe they are good people, I don't know, but want people to think they're sensitive. So movies in the 40s, 50s are not nearly as bad as movies in the 80s. Movies in the 80s, movies in the 80s make a point to prove, it's almost like it's a competition as to who can be the most racist. I mean, movies like, what was that stupid Christmas movie with the Asian Christmas carolers? God, what was it
I have
called?
no idea what you're doing.
I'm not going to get it, but yeah, no, I mean, any, maybe not any, but a number of John Hughes movies. I mean, I
feel like there was a shift where, like, back in the day,
Back to the Future. What was the John Hughes movie? I think it was 16 Candles. Maybe it was Pretty in Pink, where there's a Chinese character named Long Duck Dong.
Yikes.
Who has ever met someone named Long Duck Dong? No one. Where'd you come up with that name, except off the Chinese menu?
I was in the middle of a sentence.
Go ahead.
I was saying, it seems like there's a shift from back in the day, like, I guess, where people were genuinely just, like, racist, and it wasn't, like, I think all of a sudden it turned, like, funny, I guess, because, like, in the 60s, people were like, oh, we cured racism, it's over, everything's great.
I don't think people thought that in the 60s.
Well, I think a lot of white people did. I think they were just like, this is good enough. We did what we had to do, and
Yeah.
I think like black people obviously didn't get the rights that they should have, but I feel like they didn't.
So this is not really going in the direction that I wanted it to go in. My second point. This is a Minisode.
This is just your
and
podcast. You're just.
Well, first of all, yes, it is. Second of all,
I'm saying that I think that it took a turn to comedy, and that's why the 80s got like disgustingly racist, is because now they're like, oh, we can make fun of them and whatever.
Well, first of all, at that point, what happened to the 70s?
I don't know.
It was not.
Maybe that was the culture shift.
There was something. The 80s is the weirdest decade of I'll say the 20th century. I can't definitively say human history, but I'll say of the 20th century, the 80s was fucking weird. The 20s were the 10s and 20s both, but the 20s especially were strange in ways that I don't really understand. I don't understand how people had, the release of these urges of repression and sexuality and all this, and chose to represent and express that with flapper dances and stuff. That's strange to me, but the urges behind it, I understand. I understand that, and coming from being as repressed as people were 100 years ago, I get that it would come out in a way that I don't personally relate to. But the 80s were just fucking weird. It's like everyone was an alien. I don't understand the motivation behind any of the culture, the fucking fashion, the movies, the television show. It's like it was made for people living on a different planet who had to come and approximate. They had 6 hours to learn how to approximate human behavior. Everything is so exaggerated. Everything is so ridiculous. And so Movies in the 80s were ridiculously racist, A, and B, the way that they were just so goddamn blasé about time travel. People must have been, in the 80s, convinced that time travel was just around the corner.
They were obsessed.
First of all, they were obsessed with it, yes. But second of all, even some movies are better than others, but even the ones that are supposedly good vis-a-vis time travel and explaining it, or kind of putting some science, are terrible. They say, oh, it's first of all, it's always some nerd character or scientist character who's reading Molecule Monthly magazine, and he says, oh yeah, I saw an article that some guys in Canada sneezed, farted, and turned their head to the left at the same time on a Tuesday, and that was it. That was the trick to time travel. That's all you have to do. They thought we were so goddamn close, so they didn't even bother.
Yeah.
So those are the two tropes of movies from the 80s. It's just ridiculous competitive racism and insultingly stupid explanations of and overuse of time travel. This had both of them. The Tooth Fairy came back from 2006 or something, back into the 80s. And the Tooth Fairy wasn't racist because they never talked to him. They found the scenes of the crimes and his murders, and and then when they found him, they killed him. But spoiler alert.
Oh.
But so he wasn't racist, but he came back from the future, and everyone was racist. But they said like 6 times that he must have been. What did they say? He must have been Puerto Rican, I think, which is weird. Not only were people racist in the 80s, they were oddly specific. They were someone being racist now would say, oh, them damn black people. I mean, some people, but they'd say black people go back to Africa, or those damn Asians, or people in the 80s said, oh yeah, Puerto Ricans from San Juan are so goddamn lazy. What? Yeah, those Somali immigrants are always so what? How are you stereotyping and also getting so specific? How does your mind do that? Like, recognize that you can't paint with too broad a brush, or else you'll lump people in who don't belong in this. But still, let's dismiss an entire country. Not a continent, but a country is enough. How do you have that sort of discernment and still have this attitude?
I don't fucking know.
So yeah, Jessica, would you recommend Manhunter?
Fuck you.
Okay.
Kicked me out of this fucking pod episode.
No, it's a minisode, and you were just going. Okay, well,
you kicked me off by reviewing a movie I haven't seen.
I've also not seen it.
You said you had.
It was a bit. Obviously, there's no time travel in a Hannibal Lecter movie.
Oh God, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah. See you later, pod racers.